Here's something that'll mess with your mind. A janitor died with $8 million in the bank, while Mike Tyson, who earned over $400 million as one of the greatest boxers alive, filed for bankruptcy with $23 million in debt. Let that sink in for a second. Same planet. Same economy. One guy mopping floors becomes a multi-millionaire. Another guy, a global icon at the peak of human performance, loses everything and ends up owing more than most of us will ever see in our lifetime. What's going on here? Is money some sort of cruel joke where the rules keep changing depending on who you are? Not exactly. But here's what I'm about to show you. Everything you think you know about building wealth is probably wrong. And the people getting rich? They're not the smartest ones in the room. They're not even the hardest workers. They're the ones who understand something most people never figure out. Which is, the psychology of money. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why behavior beats intelligence when it comes to money. You'll discover the invisible mistakes that keep people broke even when they're making six figures. And most importantly, you'll walk away with a completely different lens for viewing wealth, one that could change your family's financial story for generations. But here's the catch, some of what I'm about to share will make you uncomfortable. Because the truth is, you might be playing the wrong game entirely without even knowing it. Stick with me. Because what comes next could be the difference between spending your life chasing money and actually building generational wealth. Let's begin. Before we dive into strategies and tactics, we need to talk about something most financial advice completely ignores. Your money story is not my money story. Think about it. When were you born? What were your parents like with money? Did you grow up watching the stock market crash or boom? Did your family lose everything during a recession, or did they build wealth during good times? All of these experiences created a unique financial fingerprint that's stamped on your brain. And here's the wild part, you're making every financial decision based on that fingerprint, whether you realize it or not. Let's look at a fascinating example. People born in 1970 watched the S&P 500 increase tenfold during their teens and 20s. What do you think that did to their psychology? It made them optimistic about stocks, eager to invest, convinced the market was a golden opportunity. Now compare that to someone born in 1950. During their formative years, the stock market went absolutely nowhere. Flat. Stagnant. What's their view of investing? Totally different. More skeptical. Less enthusiastic about putting money in stocks. Same market. Different experiences. Different behavior. Or take inflation. If you were born in the 1960s, you lived through massive inflation in your 20s. It scared you. You became hyper-aware of rising prices, nervous about your purchasing power eroding. But if you were born in 1990, inflation was basically a non-issue for most of your life. You barely thought about it. Here's why this matters for building wealth. We're all playing different games, but we keep comparing ourselves using the same scoreboard. Your coworker who's all in on crypto? His father might have missed out on Microsoft in the 90s and told him stories about regret his whole childhood. Your friend who won't touch the stock market? Maybe her parents lost everything in 2008 and she watched them fight about money for years. Nobody's crazy. Everyone's just operating from their own worldview, shaped by their unique experiences. The janitor who died with $8 million, Ronald Reed, grew up during the Great Depression. He watched people lose everything. So what did he do? He saved relentlessly, spent carefully, and invested consistently in blue-chip stocks for decades. His experience shaped a behavioral pattern that made him wealthy. Mike Tyson? He grew up in poverty in Brooklyn, never had financial education, and when the money started flowing, he did what felt right to him in that moment. He spent. Mansions, cars, tigers, a $2 million bathtub. From his perspective, after growing up with nothing, spending was how you showed you'd made it. Neither of them was crazy. They were just operating from completely different financial blueprints. So here's your first major insight: stop judging other people's financial decisions and stop blindly copying them too. What works for a billionaire trying to preserve wealth might be terrible advice for you if you're trying to build it. What seems crazy to you might make perfect sense from someone else's perspective. But here's the question you should be asking right now: if our financial decisions are shaped by our past, how do we make better decisions for our future? The answer starts with understanding that while you can't change your past, you can recognize its influence and choose to write a new story. You can study people who came from your background and built wealth. You can learn the principles that work regardless of your starting point. And that's exactly what we're going to do in the chapters ahead. But before we move on, I want you to think about this. What money stories are playing in your head right now? What beliefs about wealth did you inherit? Because if you don't identify them, they'll keep running your life on autopilot. Now, let's talk about something that most people completely misunderstand about wealth building, and it involves one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion. One of the greatest investors who ever lived, right? Legendary stock picker. Genius mind. But here's a fact that'll blow your mind. $81.5 billion of Warren Buffett's $100 billion net worth came after he turned 65. The vast majority of his wealth came after retirement age. So what's his real secret? Is it superior stock-picking ability? Well, yes and no. His secret weapon isn't just being good at investing. It's being good at investing since he was literally a child. He started at age 10. Let me show you why this matters. Warren Buffett has averaged about 22% annual returns throughout his investing career. Incredible, right? But there's a guy named Jim Simons, hedge fund manager, who has averaged 66% annual returns since 1988. Almost 3 times Buffett's returns. So Jim Simons should be way richer than Buffett, right? Wrong. His net worth is about $21 billion. That's 75% less than Buffett. How is that possible? How does the guy with worse returns end up with way more money? Because Simons didn't find his groove until he was 50 years old. He had less than half the time to let his returns compound compared to Buffett. Here's the kicker. If Jim Simons had started at the same age as Buffett and kept his 66% returns going, his net worth today would be, and I'm not making this up, $63 quintillion. That's a 63 with 18 zeros after it. More money than exists on the planet. More money than has ever existed in human history. That's the insane, almost absurd power of compounding. Let me break this down in a way that'll stick with you. Imagine you invest $1,000 at 8% interest. After 1 year, you've got $1,080. Cool, you made $80. The next year, you don't just make another $80. You make $86.40 because you're now earning interest on your interest. It seems like a tiny difference, right? But that tiny difference is what creates wealth that most people can't even imagine. Here's another way to visualize it. Let's say Warren Buffett had been a normal 20-something-year-old. Maybe he spent more money on travel, bought some cool cars, and enjoyed his youth. Now, instead of having $1 million net worth at age 30, let's say he started investing seriously with just $25,000 at age 30, then retired at 60. Even with his incredible 22% annual returns, his net worth today would be around $11.9 million. Still rich, but that's 99.9% less than his actual $84.5 billion fortune. The difference? Time. 3 extra decades of compounding. This completely changes how you should think about wealth building, especially if you're young. Every year you wait is costing you exponentially. Not just the money you could save this year, but all the compound growth that money would generate for decades. Think about it this way, would you rather have $10,000 right now or a penny that doubles every day for 30 days? Most people would take the $10,000. It feels substantial. Real. But that penny? On day 30, it becomes $5.3 million. That's compounding. It feels painfully slow at first. Then it becomes unstoppable. But here's where people mess up, they focus obsessively on returns instead of time. They're looking for the next Bitcoin, the next hot stock, the next get-rich-quick opportunity. They want to be Jim Simons with his 66% returns. But they'd be better off being Ronald Read, the janitor. Consistent contributions, reasonable returns, and decades of patience. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. You don't need incredible returns to build generational wealth. You need time and consistency. If you're 25 years old and you invest $500 a month at a 10% return, roughly the stock market's historical average, by age 65 you'll have $3.2 million. If you wait until you're 35 to start, you'll have $1.1 million. Same monthly contribution, same returns, just 10 years less time. You gave up over $2 million by waiting. The younger you start, the less you need to contribute, and the more room for error you have. The older you wait, the more you'll have to save, and the less room for mistakes. So here's what you need to do. Stop waiting for the perfect investment strategy. Stop waiting until you're making more money. Start now, even if it's small. Even if it's $50 a month. Because 10 years from now, you'll wish you had started today. But, compounding alone won't make you wealthy if you keep making one critical mistake that most people never identify. What is it? We're about to find out. Let me tell you a story that'll change how you think about success forever. In 1968, Seattle. There are roughly 300 million high school-age people in the world. Of those 300 million, only 300 attend a small private school called Lakeside. And Lakeside had something no other high school on the planet had. Which is, access to a computer. The Teletype Model 30. This wasn't some dusty calculator. This was cutting-edge technology that even most graduate students couldn't access. One student at Lakeside was named Bill Gates. He and his friend Paul Allen would spend countless hours on that computer, learning, experimenting, and building. Eventually, they'd create Microsoft together. Bill Gates is brilliant, no question. Hardworking? Absolutely. Visionary? No doubt. But he's also the first to admit, if there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft. 1 in a million chance. That's the odds of being a high school student in 1968 with access to a computer. But here's where the story gets darker. There was a third member of this computer prodigy group at Lakeside. His name was Kent Evans. Just as smart as Gates. Just as driven. Just as obsessed with computers. He could have easily been a co-founder of Microsoft. But before graduating high school, Kent died in a mountaineering accident. 1 in a million chance. Bill Gates had extraordinary luck. Kent Evans had extraordinary risk. And those two forces, luck and risk, are like twin siblings that follow all of us through life, invisible but incredibly powerful. Here's what most people get wrong. We look at Bill Gates and think, he's a genius, he worked hard, therefore he succeeded. And we look at someone who failed and think, they must have been stupid or lazy. But we ignore the invisible forces. The timing. The connections. The lucky breaks. The tragic accidents. Success is never 100% skill. Failure is never 100% stupidity. Think about it this way. You could be the most talented investor in the world, but if you graduated college in 1929 right before the Great Depression, your life trajectory would be completely different than if you graduated in 1950 at the start of the biggest economic boom in history. same skills, different outcomes. All because of timing, something you can't control. Or take Jesse Livermore, one of the greatest stock traders of all time. He made millions, lost it all, made it back again. Then the Great Depression wiped him out completely. From being one of the richest traders in history to having nothing. Was he suddenly stupid? Did he forget how to trade? No. He got caught in a force bigger than himself. Which is risk. Here's the insight you need to internalize. When you see someone succeed, don't assume it's all skill. When you see someone fail, don't assume it's all incompetence. Both luck and risk are always in the mix, invisible but powerful. And here's why this matters for building wealth. If you don't respect the role of luck and risk, you'll make two devastating mistakes. First, you'll get arrogant. You'll have some wins and think you're a genius. You'll take bigger risks because you believe you've figured it out. Then risk shows up and humbles you. Second, you'll get paralyzed. You'll see other people succeeding and think, I'll never get that lucky. And so you don't even try. Both mistakes will keep you broke. The wise approach? Acknowledge that luck and risk exist. Put yourself in positions where luck can find you. But never bet everything on one outcome, because risk is always lurking. Bill Gates got lucky with Lakeside, but he also worked obsessively. He positioned himself to take advantage of that luck. Kent Evans was just as positioned, but risk found him first. You can't control these forces. You can only respect them. So what does that mean practically? It means, diversify. Don't put all your money in one stock, no matter how sure you are. Because you might be right about the company but wrong about timing, regulations, or 100 other risk factors you can't predict. It means stay humble in victory and compassionate in defeat, for yourself and others. It means keep showing up. Because the more at-bats you take, the better your chances of luck finding you. But here's what I want you to think about: if luck and risk are always present, invisible forces shaping outcomes, what's the one thing that can protect you from risk and maximize your chances when luck shows up? The answer might surprise you. And it's what we're covering next. Quick question: what would make you happier? A 50,000 raise but your boss still controls your schedule, demands you're available 24/7, and expects you in the office whenever they say so. B. Keeping your current salary but having complete control over when, where, and how you work. If you picked B, you just identified the highest form of wealth that exists. And most people spend their entire lives chasing A without realizing it. Here's what Morgan Housel discovered as shared in his book. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want, that's the ultimate form of wealth. Not a bigger house. Not a fancier car. Not a more impressive job title. Control over your time. Research backs this up. The single most reliable predictor of happiness isn't your salary, your house size, or your career prestige. It's having control over your life. Think about the irony here. People are working harder than ever, making more money than ever, but they're giving up more control over their time than ever. They're getting richer while becoming less happy. You know that guy who makes $200,000 a year but can't take a real vacation because he's glued to his phone? Who misses his kids' soccer games because of important meetings? Who's stressed out every Sunday night about the week ahead? Compare him to someone making $75,000 who works from home, sets their own schedule, spends afternoons with their family, and sleeps soundly every night. Who's wealthier? On paper, the first guy. In reality, the second person is living a wealthier life. Here's the trap: our society measures wealth by what you can buy. But true wealth is measured by what you don't have to do. Let me tell you about two people I know. One of them got stuck in a terrible job. Toxic workplace. Unreasonable hours. Nightmare boss. But he couldn't leave. Why? Zero savings. He was living paycheck to paycheck. Trapped. No options. The other person saved aggressively for a few years. When her job started draining the life out of her, she walked away. No stress. No panic. Just, I'm done. The difference? Money bought the second person freedom. The first person's lack of money took away his freedom. This is why saving money isn't just about delayed spending. It's about buying options. There's even a term for this, the PFU fund. Basically, it's a pile of money that lets you walk away from bad situations without stress. Your job becomes toxic. You don't have to stay. Your landlord raises rent unreasonably. You have options. Someone tries to take advantage of you. You can walk away. And you don't need to be a millionaire for this. Even having 6 months of expenses saved completely changes your position in life. Most people say they can't afford to save. But the truth is, saving just isn't exciting. Spending is exciting. You buy a new car, people notice, everyone hypes you up on Instagram. But saving? Nobody sees it. Nobody claps when you quietly transfer $500 into your emergency fund. No one's impressed that you turned down that vacation to build your freedom fund. But here's the thing. Every dollar you save is buying back a piece of your life. It's buying you the ability to say no. To walk away. To wait for better opportunities. To take risks on things you actually care about. Rich people understand this instinctively. They're not trying to buy more stuff. They're trying to buy back their time. Warren Buffett doesn't need another house, another car, another anything. What he has is the freedom to spend his days exactly how he wants. Reading, thinking, making decisions on his own terms. Nobody can force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. That's wealth. So here's what you need to ask yourself. Are you working to buy more things, or are you working to buy more freedom? Because here's the brutal truth. If you're spending every dollar you make to impress people you don't even like, you're running on a treadmill going nowhere. You might look successful, but you're trapped. The goal isn't to retire at 65 with a big pile of money. The goal is to reach a point where money concerns stop dictating your life choices. Where you can take a lower-paying job that you actually love without panicking. Where you can start that business without risking everything. Where you can say no to opportunities that don't align with what you want. That's freedom. That's wealth. That's what you should be building toward. But here's the problem, most people are working hard, saving money, and still not building real wealth. Why? Because they're making a fundamental mistake about what wealth actually looks like. And that's what we need to talk about next. Let me tell you about two people. Person A drives a Lamborghini. Wears a Rolex. Lives in a penthouse apartment. Posts photos of first-class flights to Dubai. Everyone assumes this person is loaded. Person B drives a 10-year-old Toyota. Wears a regular watch. Lives in a modest home. Takes normal vacations. Everyone assumes this person is doing okay, nothing special. Plot twist. Person A is drowning in debt with a negative net worth. Person B is a multi-millionaire with investments quietly compounding in the background. Here's one of the most important truths about money that nobody tells you. Wealth is what you don't see. We're conditioned to measure wealth by what people spend. Nice car? Must be rich. Big house? Must be wealthy. Designer clothes? Must be doing well. But spending money is literally the opposite of building wealth. Every dollar you spend on looking rich is a dollar that can't compound into actual wealth. Real wealth is invisible. It's the money you haven't spent yet. The investments are growing quietly. The financial security nobody else sees. The options you have that others don't even know exist. Remember Ronald Read, the janitor with $8 million? Nobody had any clue. He drove an old car, wore the same clothes, and lived simply. While everyone else was busy looking rich, he was busy being rich. There's a perfect word for this: wealth. Being rich is having a high income. Being wealthy is having assets that generate income whether you work or not. Rich is the new car in the driveway. Wealthy is the portfolio of stocks generating dividends. Rich is the paycheck you get every month. Wealthy is not needing that paycheck to maintain your lifestyle. Think about it this way. When you see someone pull up in a Ferrari, what do you actually know about them? You know they spent $300,000 on a car. That's it. You don't know if they have $30 million in the bank or if they're drowning in debt. All you know for sure is they're $300,000 poorer than they were before they bought that car. Meanwhile, the person driving the Honda Accord might have $5 million invested in index funds, quietly compounding away. This is why so many high-income people never build real wealth. Doctors, lawyers, executives making $300,000, $500,000 a year, and they're still living paycheck to paycheck because they spent it all keeping up appearances. They bought the house in the right neighborhood. The car that announces their status. The clothes, the watches, the vacations, all to signal wealth to people who, frankly, don't care. Here's the brutal truth. When you buy something to impress other people, you're literally taking money from your future self and handing it to people who will forget about your purchase within 5 minutes. The real question is, would you rather look rich or be wealthy? Because you can't have both. Well, you can eventually, but only after you've built real wealth first. Warren Buffett still lives in the house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. Not because he can't afford a mansion. Because he values freedom over flexing. He understands that every dollar spent on impressing others is a dollar that can't work for him. Building wealth requires something most people struggle with: delayed gratification and invisibility. You have to say no to things. A lot of things. The nice dinners. The expensive vacations. The luxury car lease. The designer clothes. And nobody will applaud you. Nobody will post comments saying, "Wow, look at them transferring money to their investment account. So impressive." But here's what happens over time. While everyone else is busy performing wealth, you're actually building it. While they're getting Instagram likes, you're getting compound interest. While they're making car payments, your investments are growing. 10 years later, they're still making those payments. Still stressed about money. Still one job loss away from disaster. And you? You're financially independent. You have options. You have freedom. You have real wealth. But nobody sees it. And that's exactly the point. Wealth is what you don't see. It's the cars not purchased. The clothes not bought. The vacations not taken. The money saved and invested instead of spent. So here's your challenge. Stop trying to look rich. Stop competing in the game of appearances. Stop posting your consumption on social media for validation. Start playing the real game. The invisible game. The game where you quietly build assets while everyone else burns cash on liabilities. Because the ultimate irony is this: the people you're trying to impress with your spending? They're not impressed. They're just sizing up whether you have more stuff than them. And if you do, they don't admire you, they just want to outspend you. It's an endless, exhausting, expensive game that leads nowhere. But real wealth? Real wealth is peace of mind. It's options. It's freedom. It's sleeping soundly at night knowing that you're financially secure even if nobody else knows it. Now, here's the question. If building wealth requires not spending money, how do you actually know when enough is enough? When can you finally enjoy it? That's the danger we're diving into next, because it's destroyed more wealthy people than you can imagine. Imagine you want to climb Mount Everest. You understand it's going to be brutal, right? You'll face freezing temperatures, dangerous terrain, thin air, unpredictable weather. You might get lost. You might fall. You might get injured. But here's the thing, you expect all of that. You prepare for it mentally and physically. You know the price of reaching the summit, and you're willing to pay it. Now imagine someone shows up at Everest expecting a golden escalator to carry them to the top safely. Ridiculous, right? Yet that's exactly how most people approach the stock market. They want the returns without paying the price. Every great outcome in investing comes with a cost. That cost isn't dollar signs, it's emotional. It's volatility, fear, uncertainty, and the stomach-churning drops that make you question everything. That's the price. And if you want the long-term gains, you have to pay it. Here's how Morgan Housel explains it. Imagine you want a new car. You have 3 options. Buy a new car, higher price, greater reward. Buy a used car, cheaper, but less reward. Steal a car, trying to get something for nothing. Most people would never consider stealing a car because the consequences are obvious. But when it comes to investing, people constantly try option 3. They try to steal from the market. They want 12% annual returns but freak out at the first 20% drop. They want long-term wealth but panic sell during downturns. They want the reward without paying the emotional price. Consider this, from 1950 to 2019, the Dow Jones returned about 11% annually. Fantastic, right? But during those same 69 years, there were countless moments of terror. Market crashes. Recessions. Wars. Pandemics. If you wanted that 11% return over 30 years, you had to sit through all of that. The uncertainty. The fear. The moments when your portfolio was down 30% and everyone around you was panicking. That's the admission fee. Not just in dollars, but in emotional endurance. Most people try to avoid this fee. They sell when things get scary, trying to time the market. They jump in and out, attempting to catch the highs and avoid the lows. They think they're being smart, but they're actually trying to steal from the market. And the market doesn't let you steal from it. Here's a crazy statistic. If you invested in the S&P 500 20 years ago but missed the 4 best performing days, your returns would drop from 291% to 164%. The problem? Those best days usually happen right after the worst days. So if you sell during the scary times, you miss the recovery. You try to avoid the fee, but you also miss the reward. Let's say you want 11% annual returns over 30 years to retire comfortably. That's totally reasonable based on historical averages. But to get those returns, you have to accept that some years you'll be down 30%. Some years you'll question whether you made a huge mistake. Some years you'll watch your friends panic sell and you'll wonder if they know something you don't. That's the price. That volatility, that emotional roller coaster, that's not a bug. It's a feature. It's literally what you're paying for long-term wealth. Think of it like a theme park. You can't experience the thrill of the roller coaster without accepting the fear and discomfort. If you close your eyes and scream to get off at the first drop, you don't get to enjoy the ride. Successful investors understand this. They view market downturns not as disasters but as the cost of doing business. Warren Buffett has famously said he hopes for a market crash so he can buy more quality companies at lower prices. He's not panicking during downturns. He's recognizing that volatility is the price he pays for long-term returns. But here's where most people mess up, they view the volatility as a penalty rather than a price. If you think of market drops as a fine, something unfair, something to avoid, you'll never enjoy the journey. You'll always be trying to outsmart the system, and you'll fail. But if you reframe it as an admission fee, the price you knowingly pay to access long-term wealth, your entire psychology shifts. You stop trying to time the market. You stop panic selling. You accept that some years will suck, and that's okay because over decades, you'll come out ahead. Here's the practical takeaway. Before you invest a single dollar, ask yourself, am I willing to pay the price? If your portfolio drops 30% tomorrow, will you stay the course or panic sell? If your investments stagnate for 3 years while your friend's crypto holdings 10x, will you stay disciplined or chase the hot thing? If everyone around you is panicking about a recession, will you hold steady or run for the exits? If you can't handle the emotional price, that's fine. Just don't expect the reward. Stick with safer investments that match your risk tolerance. There's no shame in that. But don't fool yourself into thinking you can have high returns without high volatility. You can't steal from the market. Pay the price. Accept the volatility. Stay the course. That's how wealth gets built. Because here's the truth. Investing success isn't about finding a strategy with no downside. It's about finding a strategy whose downside you can emotionally tolerate. And if you can accept that market crashes, volatility, and fear are just the admission fee for long-term wealth, you'll be ahead of 90% of investors who keep trying to sneak in for free. So let's bring this all together. Ronald Read, the janitor, died with $8 million. Mike Tyson, who earned $400 million, went bankrupt. Same economy, wildly different outcomes. Why? Because Ronald Read understood the psychology of money. And Mike Tyson didn't. Ronald understood that his financial decisions were shaped by his experiences, but he didn't let them trap him. He respected the role of luck and risk, he diversified, stayed humble, and never bet everything on one outcome. He valued freedom over flash. He saved money not to spend it later on bigger purchases, but to buy control over his life. He understood that wealth is invisible. While others were buying cars and taking vacations, he was quietly building assets. He paid the price. He endured decades of market volatility, never panicking, never trying to time the market. He just stayed the course. And most importantly, he knew when enough was enough. He wasn't trying to keep up with billionaires or celebrities. He defined success on his own terms and lived accordingly. That's the psychology of money. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's not about finding the perfect investment strategy or earning the highest salary. It's about behavior. It's about understanding yourself, respecting forces you can't control, and making decisions that align with your long-term goals rather than short-term emotions. Mike Tyson had all the money in the world. But he didn't have the right psychology, and he lost it all. Ronald Read never made much money. But he had the right psychology, and he died wealthier than most people will ever be. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Your past shaped your money story, but it doesn't have to define your future. Recognize your biases, learn from them, and choose different behaviors. Start investing as early as possible. Time is your greatest asset. Compounding works miracles, but only if you give it decades to work. Respect luck and risk. Stay humble when you win, compassionate when you lose. Diversify, because you never know which way the wind will blow. Save money to buy freedom, not stuff. Control over your time is the ultimate form of wealth. Stop trying to look rich. Real wealth is invisible. Build it quietly while others perform for social media. Accept volatility as the price of long-term returns. Don't try to steal from the market. Pay the admission fee and stay the course. If you can internalize these principles and let them shape your financial behavior, you won't just build wealth. You'll build generational wealth. You'll change your family's story. You'll create options and freedom that most people never experience. The choice is yours. You can keep chasing the same strategies everyone else is chasing, trying to get rich quick, trying to keep up with people who are secretly broke. Or you can play the long game. The invisible game. The game where you quietly build wealth while everyone else burns money trying to look wealthy. 20 years from now, one path leads to stress, debt, and regret. The other leads to freedom, options, and peace of mind. Which one will you choose? The psychology of money isn't complicated. But it requires something most people aren't willing to give. Patience, discipline, and the courage to do what's right even when no one's watching. That's how you build wealth that lasts. That's how you change your family's financial story forever. Now go out there and make it happen.